Hey there everybody, welcome back with Bino Mac. Now here we're gonna start, this is the story mode versions of the unlockables in Smackdown, Just Bring It. For the PS2 that is. Now for this one, we're gonna start off with probably the longest one, hopefully. I mean this is gonna be a pretty long video. This is gonna be for unlocking Mick Foley in Just Bring It. Now you can play as anybody that you want, it doesn't really matter. Except Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle, we're gonna do a storyline with him separately and you're gonna see why. Maybe I started off as The Rock, this is the first one I did. So maybe Kurt Angle is, he does have a way where you can actually unlock Mick Foley, but when I tried it with him and pretty much the same storyline, it just didn't really allow me to meet the certain conditions that you need to unlock Mick Foley. So, we're just gonna go through kind of a walkthrough. You're gonna see the matches play out, and I kind of skipped through a lot of the fluff. Like the random entrances, obviously we can't watch those. And just, me saving, going from storyline to, show to show, I guess you could say. Sorry for the stuttering. But yeah, first off we got Rikishi here in the ring. So I'm gonna try and walk you guys through it. So first off, obviously as you've seen, hit no, you don't want to do a tag team when Vince asks you. That's gonna be the majority of all these unlockable characters. Yeah, the thing about Just Bring It, unfortunately, it seems as though the cutscenes, they always drag out. So, a lot of times, as you can see, Rikishi's not really saying too much, but it's like I think a 40-second cutscene. And it's still going on. Alright, here we go. The Rock. Yeah, sorry, I still kind of have a little bit of a cold at this time. So, sorry if I cough a little bit, and it's only usually when I try and talk when I actually start to cough. But what you want to do is hit talk smack on the mic. And it's pretty cool with some characters like The Rock, they did go the extra mile to give them special dialogue. It doesn't make any sense, as you can see, where he ended up going. I mean, I know at this time he did leave, but the storyline is taking place before WrestleMania 17, before he left. And as you can see, jeez, I think my voice just cracked real bad there. As you can see though, he doesn't really even say anything. Unfortunately, that's the issue with this game. I think realistically with Just Bring It, what they wanted to do was what they ended up doing in Shut Your Mouth. They wanted to have like a continuous season mode where, a variety of storylines, things that mirrored real life story mode. Or I mean, jeez. See, I can't talk today. That are mirroring the real life product at the time. But I think due to the success of No Mercy's championship mode and having all those choices, I think they said that they were forced essentially to try and do the same thing with story mode. And I mean, this is the end result. It's not the worst wrestling game mode I have ever played, but it is at the bottom of the list. There's a reason why Just Bring It is almost infamous in the wrestling community. So with this one, once again, your choice, if you want it to be kick his butt in the arena tonight. And as you can see here, he just randomly asked where Vince is. And what you're going to want to do is go to the parking lot to find Vince McMahon. And he'll set up the match for you. But yeah, just to continue what I was saying, the story mode too with this, I mean, in championship mode, you had 7 different championship titles, so there were, depending on if you were the champion or if you were starting out as a challenger, you had altogether 14 different starting points. And it did get repetitive if you were trying to get to 100% completion, especially in the non-WWF title reigns, but the fact is, this one only has the same starting intro And sorry. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it feels like every time, no matter what the end result of this Raw is, it's almost always, you know, the next show is usually the same thing with somebody calling you out over the WWF title, unless if you end the story mode prematurely. But it seems like they had a lot of options and variety, but something about it is they just kind of, unfortunately, were not able to really give us the experience that I'm sure they wanted to. And, you know, combine that with the fact this was during the Invasion era. You know, I think it just ended at Survivor Series when this game came out. So people were expecting people like, you know, the DDPs, the Booker T's, you know, those kind of guys that transitioned from WCW and ECW over to, you know, be in this game. And for whatever reason, the Hurricane and DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, were, I believe, in like betas where they were shown, you know, with the screenshots, but they just weren't released for whatever reason. Which, you know, I don't really understand why, especially DDP. You know, Hurricane would have had some nice variety to it. DDP was still a big star at the time. So adding them in this game would have been a pretty big deal. And you can see that they did add a lot of new WCW, ECW kind of characters. Later on, you'll see guys like Rhino, Jerry Lynn, Tajiri. William Regal was a new addition. But I think he was gone from WCW for a while anyway. But yeah, those are kind of the big reasons why I just bring it. I think a lot of people kind of thought it was a disappointment. And in hindsight, it's a lot easier to say that with what we found out, what we got, you know, later on with Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, and of course the fantastic SmackDown vs. Raw games. But I think at the time, while it was still a disappointment and a heavy blow, this game still holds up a lot better than a lot of the other disappointment kind of games. You know, like take WWE 2K15 for example. It's, you know, that was just such a disappointment, and it was kind of, you know, you can make the argument for both of these games. They were new hardware, limitations, they were figuring things out, but I feel like with Just Bring It, the gameplay was still pretty solid, and it did feel like mostly an upgrade to SmackDown 2 in my opinion. You know, obviously you got improvements like 2 finishers, as you can see here. The Rock has the People's Elbow, and he also has the Rock Bottom. That wasn't really the case in, you know, the PS1 SmackDown games. And realistically, if you think of this game as kind of like the last, you know, swan song of the Attitude Era, then it kind of does have a little bit of a charm to it, because, you know, if you think of it as, you know, all those Attitude Era guys, their last time to shine. I mean, we got a lot of them in Shut Your Mouth, but it still felt like a pretty Ruthless Aggression era roster still, the starring stages of it. But yeah, it's just a kind of a disappointment that we didn't get even the Invasion stage. I think that was in Shut Your Mouth, but I think this was around the time where they didn't have as much development time because of the more advanced hardware. So as you can see, we kind of just skipped from Raw to SmackDown. I took out, you know, Rikishi. You're supposed to win that match, as I'm sure you all kind of knew from the get-go. It's not often that losing a match actually yields different results in this game. But next week it'll be another random guy. This time it's the one Billy Gunn who's calling you out. And for a lot of these storylines, they tell you to stay backstage, but this time you're going to show up on stage and you're going to confront them. It is so... I get why, but it's always just lame to see, you know, The Rock talking first person rather than third person in these games. Not that big of a deal, but it kind of breaks the immersion a little bit. And for some reason they give them, like, you know, special cutscenes, but in this one they don't, which is weird, because I feel like they later on you'll see in the Kurt Angle, they'll actually give you a pretty cool, unique cutscene that ironically also took place during the Invasion. So it felt like a lot of care was given to Kurt Angle in particular. And The Rock, like I said, you get a few cutscenes, but they're just not as cool. But, you know, I am a big Rock fan, so we're starting off with him, especially since, you know, his history with Mick Foley. And I figured I'd show you guys the Smackdown intros, Raw intros on this video, because they are pretty cool. There are a lot of elements of this game that are really cool, which, like I said, I compared it to WWE 2K15, whereas I feel like that game was just kind of a disappointment in so many regards. I feel like a lot of people have those cutoff points with the WWE games, where like, okay, this is too much, this isn't fun arcadey action anymore. I liked that mix that they had in WWE 12, 13, 2K14, but I just feel like when they kind of got into that play style, it was just too realistic. It's too much of a simulator, and I know that's what a lot of people want these days, so I'm not the target audience, fair enough, but that's just I think that game kind of drew a lot of people off with that. I think WWE 2K22 kind of got a lot of people back on the side with a more slightly arcade-ish experience. It's actually pretty decent. But this one, it doesn't matter what match you pick. The one that you do pick is what you unlock. So I would never go for Last Man Standing because you're going to do that at WrestleMania anyway. So it would just be a waste. And then Ultimate Submission. Not only is that just... I've never been a fan of Iron Man matches in these games, and Ultimate Submission, if you're unaware, it's just a 10-minute Iron Man match, but obviously you can only win with submissions. And I don't know why they always added the like the stipulation you can't exit the ring for whatever reason, which I could have swore when like Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle did it, I think, you know, they did exit the ring. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember that was a really great match, but I remember they went out of the ring. So I don't really know why they enforce that rule in these games. It doesn't really matter too much anyway, I guess. Maybe it was just because, you know, submissions only, they don't want to do a DQ thing or have any of those rule sets. But yeah, if you're doing a first playthrough and you want to unlock all the matches, I would go either Ultimate Submission or Street Fight. And you're going to see later on, because I'm recording this, obviously as you can tell, I'm recording this after the fact. But for whatever reason, even though it's a street fight, it should be falls count anywhere. But not only can you not go out to the street, you can't pin them, you know, outside of the ring. So I never really understood that. I think they got rid of the street fight and Here Comes the Pain because I think they realized, hey, this is the worst version of the hardcore match. But yeah, there's a reason why I picked it anyway, other than the fact that I just, you know, I forgot that you can't pin people outside of the ring. And for some reason, I think in this game, maybe I'm just an idiot, I tried it a few times, I couldn't figure out how to pick items out from underneath the ring, so I think you only get what they give you in the arena, which is, as you can see, Moppy, which is a really nice reference. There's a crate on the other side of the ring, the steel steps that either somebody has to run into or be thrown into. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it in the arena. I think you can go up to the stage and you can interact with, I think, just like another crate or something. I think there's a camera by the announce table and stuff, but yeah, for like, they don't even give you any real weapons in this game for some reason. And even then, this was still kind of like SmackDown 2, I think, was the worst with it, because you got all these super cool weapons, but you know, it was nearly impossible to knock anybody down with them, and they just had no impact. And they got a little bit better in this game. You know, as you can see, you're knocking people down, but it doesn't feel like you're really doing all that much damage. And I forget if it's Shut Your Mouth, because honestly, I haven't really played Shut Your Mouth, especially not that much. I maybe did like a month worth of the season mode, but Here Comes the Pain, I know for a fact that's when the weapons really started to get good. You know, you had a lot of unique animations. The weapons were very hard hitting, the most hard hitting in any wrestling game ever, I would have to say. But here we go, we're gonna check out the stage here. It is very nice. It's also weird in this game, as you've seen if you watched the other gameplay videos. Before this, I did the Slobber Knocker playthroughs to unlock Fred Durst and the SmackDown stage that was new at the time, the SmackDown Fist. It's just weird to me. Like I said, like, you know, I think it'd be cool if the old SmackDown ring, I mean, yeah, the old SmackDown arena was unlockable with the Slobber Knocker, but it just feels weird to me that you have to do a Slobber Knocker mode and all the special stuff to even unlock the SmackDown stage that was the current stage at the time. But I mean, it's definitely worth it because the SmackDown Fist is probably, I think I like the oval one a little bit better because I'm a big fan of the Attitude Era, as you can tell on my channel. But the Fist, I mean, legendary. That's definitely one of the best stages they ever made. But it just kind of goes to show, you know, that they tried, there was so much that was changing at the time. They tried to, you know, incorporate the SmackDown stage they already had worked on. Obviously, they didn't want to waste all that progress. And like I said, when you think of this game as, like, you know, the last of the Attitude Era, you know, it definitely does have that charm to it. You know, when, you know, the two-man power trip were running wild. You know, the Brothers of Destruction are the tag champs in this game by default. The Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys are still around. You know, it's definitely got a lot of charm in that sense. It's just the story mode leaves so much to, you know, so much up to chance. You know, it's kind of a what if, what could have been type deal, unfortunately. But it still is. I mean, I pretty much spent this entire video, I'm sure, you know, you're probably wondering, alright, when is this guy going to shut up about how, you know, lame the game is or whatever. I actually, you know, it's, as you can see, I love this game. You know, I'm still playing it. It's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely a great game. It's just, for what it could have been, it was a little disappointing, unfortunately. And I think this is the game that really started, like I said, it was that PS2 era where they couldn't really do those crazy changes. I think, like, No Mercy and SmackDown 2, you can see changes all the way from, like, August, you know, SummerSlam and stuff. I think SmackDown 2 even has the updated SummerSlam 2000 that took place in August of that year. You know, they have it updated for those logos, so that just shows how much time they had to develop those games and how many, you know, quick last minute changes they could make. No Mercy had Kane's new attire that debuted at SummerSlam that year, once again in August, so that just wasn't possible with the PS2 era, unfortunately. And I think this game was kind of the red herring, kind of showing you how that, you know, affects the kind of games. And this was the first one where you had guys where you're kind of looking at the roster and you're like, you know, why wasn't he here? You know, it makes perfect sense why he should be here. You know, Booker T, RVD, DDP, Hurricane. And, you know, it's just unfortunate, but it actually get a lot worse, you know. I mean, maybe some people would say, because those are big names, obviously, so it's definitely a disappointment, but later on you would see guys in, like, the SmackDown vs. Raw series where, you know, you wondered why, okay, why are Deuce and Domino not here? They were the tag champs at the time. Why are Paul and Brian Kendrick the longest reigning tag team champions of SmackDown of that era? I think it just recently got beaten by the New Day just a few years ago, actually. But, you know, they weren't in the games until 2009 when they were, you know, reigning tag team champions for, like, well over a year, I think. And then you have characters, you know, like Jeff Hardy not being in SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. So there's a lot of, you know, this is kind of the game that started that whole unfortunate saga. But as you can see, win, you know, that match against, you know, the person that calls you out. Usually, unfortunately, it will be somebody who's kind of lame like Billy Gunn because it's just a randomized thing. But then here's the thing, it's going to be a last man standing match, so obviously, you know, in hindsight, you don't want to go with that. I remember the first time I ever played this game and picked my match type, it was a last man standing match, only to have another one right after it. So as you can see, that was a special Rock cutscene. I figured I'd just let it play. But you know, you're gonna see later on they have some special cutscenes. One that I'm probably not gonna show is I think if you place the Hardys, Edge and Christian attack you guys backstage and hit you with the concerto. So they had some pretty cool special cutscenes to reference a lot of things at the time. But I mean, it's pretty cool that they went through for the you know, just did that in the first place. But it's kind of one of those things of, is that really the best you could have done? You know, you could have given him like, you know, some sort of promo in the ring or something before somebody comes out to attack him or talk to him or something. It's also worth noting, I mean, if you seen my SmackDown 2 playthroughs, just how much better the models look. They still have that, since it's, I think it was one of the first games in the PS2 library, really. So, I mean, you can kind of see, like, yeah, they're still a little bit iffy, but I mean, it's night and day between SmackDown 2 Rock and Just Bring It Rock, and they would only get better as time went on. So with this one in particular, just to get it out of the way, you are going to want to lose. That's why, geez, I probably should have fast forwarded through this, but you're just going to kind of see Stone Cold kicking my butt for like a few minutes on here. Because, I mean, it's one of those weird things. I think this is the only match that you had to lose to unlock something. But it's just really, because they ask you for a rematch afterwards. It's not like No Mercy Championship where, you know, it just kind of continues from there whether you win or lose. Obviously, some matches you have to win, but it'll tell you that. With this one, it doesn't say, you know, win or lose storyline will continue or anything like that. So I'm sure most people are tempted to hit, oh, well, I lost, you know, I'm going to hit rematch. But to unlock Mick Foley, you have to lose this match, and you're going to see why. And remember, I cut it out, but remember, do not hit rematch. You just want to hit no. But after you unlock Mick Foley, I don't think you can do the storyline again, so keep that in mind for when you get to WrestleMania against the champion. A lot of people, I'm actually interested to hear in the comments, a lot of people say that Stone Cold vs. Rock, WrestleMania 17, that was the end of the Attitude Era for a lot of people. And no matter what, I think even WWE, like, they don't really have that kind of definitive timeline. I feel like the end of the Attitude Era is kind of always up for debate. You know, a lot of people, I think it's always almost unanimously agree upon the Montreal Screwjob is, you know, what started it. I'm not going to go into those details. Everybody's heard enough about it. But, you know, some people say it's Mania 17. And I think that's, you know, the consensus. That's what most people say. I always thought it was after the invasion. You know, Survivor Series 2001 when the WWF beat the Alliance. Then, you know, a month later, Jericho won the Undisputed Championship. And I feel like that's when, you know, the storylines were still similar. It was still the WWF. But I feel like that's when things really changed. And Jericho winning the title, I think, was a big significant point that kind of showcased that. You know, they were moving in a new direction. And some people, I think, even say, you know, it was the brand split, the start of the draft. Or, you know, some people say it was when they changed from WWE, I mean WWF to WWE after the whole worldwide, the World Wildlife Fund, I believe it's called, the WWF with the panda. So hit, you know, in this you want to hit no for a rematch, and then the story will continue with Mick Foley coming out in his ref shirt. One thing that also disappointed me about Just Bring It is that you'll find out if you look up online, there were a lot of alternate attires that just we didn't get. You know, there's Kurt Angle in a blue singlet, but it's where like he pulled the straps down. I think Mick Foley had like technically like 3 attires, as you can see. You know, even though we've seen it, he has his ref outfits. I think that's the only unique ref model outfit. Then he had like his green WrestleMania 2000 look, and I think they had one where it was the same outfit, but they changed the hair. Because I think it's just shorter in this game rather than his 2000 look. But I feel like they could have given us more attires in this game as well. You know, Stone Cold has the shirt and jean shorts that you've seen. The Rock has a shirt. A lot of guys you'll find out just have t-shirt models. Some of them have t-shirt models that aren't used. So I think it would have made it a little bit of a better experience, as you guys, you know, could have seen if they did, you know, give us some more alternate attires. Shut Your Mouth. I mean, that was, if I remember correctly, I think everybody had at least one extra outfit in that game, the whole roster. And I mean, that was just so cool. I mean, I don't think they've ever done that in a game since. And we're getting spoiled with outfits nowadays. You know, if they don't have all these alternate outfits, you know, people riot because we're used to it. But back in the day, that wasn't the case exactly. I mean, we got spoiled with No Mercy. And then with the Smackdown games, I don't think it was until 2011, really, that we got, you know, a lot of alternate attires. And most of the time, it was just the big names. And it was just them wearing, you know, generic street clothes. But something about the Hell in a Cell, as you can see in this game, they didn't update it from Smackdown 2. It's kind of the same exact thing. I think they just updated the textures. Obviously, they make it more apparent, like, okay, this is where you have to, this is the sweet spot to slam the cell. And it was always weird to me that they didn't update it. It's kind of weird that they even went with that kind of steel cage with a top anyway. I think it's usually synonymous with you know, Smackdown 2. But I mean, this game, even like that noises when you're on like the cage, it doesn't sound right to me. And even still, it's still so hard to just, as you can tell, I mean, I'm really trying to hit that, you know, hit him through the center of the cell. And this is another weird thing. You can't pin outside of the cell for whatever reason. I don't know when they fixed that, but it's just one of those weird quirks in this game for whatever reason. I think a Falls Count Anywhere match must be the only match where you can actually pin somebody outside of the ring. And I mean, as you can see, I mean, I'm only playing on normal difficulty, and these guys are ruthless with the reversals. Which, I mean, in all fairness, it is pretty easy. You know, a lot easier to reverse in this game. It's just a square button, and if you even want to, I try not to do that because it's just kind of almost like cheating for me, in my opinion. But you could just spam the like square button, and most of the time you'll find that you reverse a move. And obviously, people have reversal stats. You know, like I play as Kane, and I believe it was Triple H and Mick Foley. Like those, I think those guys have some really high reversal stats. I think Chris Benoit is probably the #1 in this game for reversals. But for whatever reason, Kurt Angle, one of the guys you think would have a really high reversal stat. I mean, maybe he does, and I'm bad, as you can tell. But I don't know. I felt like when I was playing as Kurt Angle, he just wasn't he wasn't reversing as much as I feel like he should have. But here we go. That's it. And you get this little, you know, this little cutscene of Vince McMahon, you know, being there for Stone Cold, coddling him. And then, usually with this storyline, you'll get 5 things unlocked. Alright everybody, but that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe for more daily content. And make sure to hit the notification bell to be updated on that daily content. Make sure you tune in next week for more Just Bring It content.